We are tackling a really heavy one today for this deep dive. And I don't just mean the subject matter is heavy.
Right, the physical book itself.
Yeah, the physical object we're discussing it's practically a weapon. We are opening up the Animator's Survival Kit by Richard Williams.
Oh yeah, it's a brick.
It really is. And if you talk to anyone in the animation industry, from the folks making indie shorts in their garage to the veterans at Pixar, they usually just refer to this as the Bible.
It truly is the definitive text. I mean, Richard Williams wasn't just an animator, he was essentially a bridge.
A bridge between eras, right?
Exactly. He spent his life collecting the oral history and all the technical secrets of the Golden Age masters.
The guys who invented the art form back in the 1930s and 40s.
Right, and he codified it all before they passed away. He got the knowledge out of their heads and onto paper.
Which is incredible. We could honestly spend 20 deep dives dissecting this entire book. And we might eventually do that.
I'd be up for it.
But today, for you listening, we are zooming in with laser focus on just Chapter 2.
Chapter 2, Drawing in Time.
Yes, Drawing in Time. And that title alone kind of stops me in my tracks.
How so?
Because when I think of drawing, I think of space. Think of a 2D piece of paper, composition, perspective, shading.
Sure, static elements.
Right. But Williams argues right on page 1 of this chapter that animation isn't really about space at all.
It's a fundamental shift in mindset. If you are an illustrator, you are freezing a moment.
Capturing a single snapshot.
Exactly. You are suggesting time, maybe, with motion lines or a dynamic pose, but the image itself is static.
It just sits there.
It just sits there. Williams posits that animation is the manipulation of the fourth dimension. The paper is just the medium.
The delivery mechanism.
Yeah. The actual art form is time itself. You are sculpting time just as a potter sculpts clay.
Which sounds incredibly poetic.
It is poetic.
It is, but let's look at the harsh reality of the job for a second.
Right.
Because animation is grueling.
Oh, it's a nightmare of repetitive labor.
We are talking about drawing the exact same character over and over thousands of times with just microscopic changes in line placement.
Pushing a pencil for months.
It is tedious, it is repetitive, and it is painfully slow. So Williams opens this chapter with a very blunt question for the reader.
Why do it?
Exactly. Why do it?
Okay.
Why would anyone sign up for this kind of torture?
It's the existential question of the whole industry, because if you just want to tell a story, writing a novel is way faster.
Way faster.
If you want to capture a great performance, filming a live actor is faster.
You just turn the camera on.
Correct. So Williams suggests that the hook, the thing that keeps these animators chained to their desks late into the night, is that godlike ability to control the viewer's experience of time.
I really like the comparison he makes to comic strips to explain this.
The pacing aspect.
Yeah. In a comic, the reader is the director. I can stare at the first panel of a Calvin and Hobbes strip for 10 minutes if I want to. Or I could just skip straight to the punchline.
You are in control of the flow.
I dictate the pacing, yeah.
But in animation, the artist dictates the flow entirely.
They lock you in.
They do. If I want you to feel suspense for exactly 3 seconds before character blinks, I can force that exact experience on you.
You literally draw those 3 seconds of waiting.
Exactly. I am leaping out of the static dimension and dragging you into a timeline of my own making. And Williams sets up this hierarchy of engagement to explain why that specific power is so addictive to artists.
Right. He outlines 3 levels of animation. And level 1 is what he calls drawings that walk.
Which, if you think about it, historically speaking, is already a miracle.
Just seeing lines move.
Yeah, taking a scratch of ink on a page and making it traverse a screen triggers something totally primal in the human brain.
Because we're hardwired to detect motion.
It's a survival instinct. If something moves in the brush, you need to notice it. So when a drawing moves, our brain just lights up. It says, hey, it's alive.
But then he bumps it up to level 2, which is drawings that walk and talk.
Right, which creates a whole new layer of illusion. Now the creature isn't just moving, it has agency. It is communicating with its environment or with us.
This was the massive leap they made in the late 1920s with sound.
It was. But Williams says even walking and talking isn't the ultimate goal of the animator.
No, the ultimate goal, what he literally calls the real aphrodisiac of the medium, is level 3.
Drawings that walk, talk, and think.
Drawings that think.
This is the hardest thing to do in any visual art.
How do you even draw a thought process?
That's the million-dollar question. It's one thing to move a mouth up and down to match a voice track. It is an entirely different challenge to make an audience believe that a collection of pencil lines is weighing its options.
Or feeling doubt.
Or formulating a complex plan.
It reminds me of that distinction you hear about in acting classes.
Yeah.
You can always tell when a bad actor is just waiting for their turn to speak their line.
Right, their eyes are blank.
Exactly. Versus a great actor who is actively listening and reacting in real time. Williams is basically saying you have to animate that active listening.
That's it, perfectly. You are drawing the invisible machinery of the mind. And when you achieve that, when an animated character pauses, looks down, furrows their brow, and you can visibly see them change their mind, that is magic.
It's like creating a soul out of graphite.
It is. And Williams points out that this specific magic is totally unique to animation. No other static art form can pull that off.
Before we get to the era where they actually figured that out, the era of thinking characters. Chapter 2 takes us on a bit of a time travel expedition.
A very long expedition.
Yeah, and I don't mean just back to the 1920s. We're going back roughly 35,000 years.
To the caves.
To the caves. Williams makes this fascinating point that the urge to animate things isn't some modern technological desire. It's a deep human instinct.
It's baked into us.
He brings up the famous prehistoric cave paintings of the boar.
Right, and you have to picture the scene here to understand it. You are deep underground.
Pitch black.
Pitch black, except for a flickering torch in your hand. And on the wall, there is a painting of a wild boar. But the artist hasn't drawn it with 4 legs.
They've drawn it with 8 legs.
4 pairs of legs, yeah.
Now, if I saw that in a modern museum with flat, bright halogen lighting, I'd think, okay, this is a surrealist caveman.
Or just a bad artist.
Right, like maybe this guy messed up the proportions and just tried to redraw the legs slightly to the left.
That is the very modern cynic's view of history. But look at the actual context. In the flickering, dancing, unstable light of a torch, those multiple legs wouldn't look like a mistake.
The light is moving, so the shadows are moving.
Exactly. They would blur together. They would suggest the frantic scrambling of a running animal. Williams argues this was a totally deliberate attempt to capture the essence of speed and motion 35,000 years ago.
That is what he calls the 25,000-year itch. We have always been frustrated by the static image. We see the real world moving around us, and we want our art to reflect that movement.
And that desire manifests in engineering long before we ever had film cameras. The chapter highlights ancient Egypt, specifically the temple to the goddess Isis built by Ramses II around 1600 BC.
This is wild.
This is one of my absolute favorite historical examples of what you might call environmental animation.
This is the column setup, right? Walk us through how this worked.
Yes. So you have a corridor of 110 massive stone columns, and painted on each single column is an image of the goddess Isis.
Okay.
But, and this is the genius part, the position of the goddess changes slightly on each successive column.
So it's essentially a giant flip book, but you are the one doing the flipping by moving past it.
You are the playback head on a tape deck. As you ride your chariot or your horse past these columns, assuming you're going at a fast enough clip, the parallax effect kicks in.
Your eye jumps from one column to the next.
Right, and as you speed past, Isis appears to actually raise her arm or turn her head to watch you.
It's basically a 1600 BC drive-by movie theater.
It really is, and the ancient Greeks did a similar thing with pottery.
Right, spinning the pots.
Yeah, they would paint a runner in different progressive stages of a sprint all the way around the circumference of a pot. You put that pot on a potter's wheel, spin it fast, and the runner actually runs.
We were just hacking the physical world to try and create motion.
Doing whatever we could with the tools we had.
But those examples rely on the viewer moving past an object, or the object spinning physically in space. The real precursor to cinema, to the idea of projecting an image, comes a lot later in the 1600s with Athanasius Kircher and the magic lantern.
The magic lantern. It's such an evocative name for a device. Kircher was this fascinating Jesuit scholar, a real polymath.
He studied everything.
He did. And he realized that if you painted an image on glass, you could shine a bright light through it and project that image onto a wall in a dark room.
But a static projection on a wall is just a slideshow. It's a PowerPoint.
Yeah.
How did he actually make it move?
Strings and pulleys and mechanical ingenuity. He would have separate pieces of glass, so one piece of glass for the static background and another smaller piece of glass for a character.
Layering them.
Layering them, yes. He could physically slide the character glass across the background glass, or he could build a little lever onto the glass that moved a specific part of the drawing.
The example highlighted in the text is practically a Looney Tunes gag. It's a sleeping man and a mouse.
It is absolute comedy gold from 1640.
Describe the sequence.
Okay, so you have a projected slide of a man sleeping. Then, using a tiny mechanical lever behind the projector, the operator makes the man's jaw drop open.
He's snoring.
Right. Then, on another sliding piece of glass, a little mouse scampers across the projected floor, climbs up the bed, and runs straight into the man's open mouth.
And then the mouth closes.
The lever snaps the mouth shut. The audience would lose their minds.
It's so interesting to me that our very first instinct with animation, the moment we figured it out, was to do slapstick comedy.
It makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Animation inherently breaks the rules of reality. It allows for the absurd and the impossible. So naturally, we gravitate toward humor when we use it. But technically speaking, Kircher proved you could project the illusion of life onto a wall.
So we have the desire to do it, and we have the mechanical means of projection. But for a long time, we didn't actually understand the biology of it.
Why it works in our brains.
Exactly. Why do our eyes see that moving mouse as a fluid action, instead of just seeing a jerky piece of glass sliding across other piece of glass? This brings us to 1824 and a man named Peter Mark Roget.
The thesaurus guy.
I always forget he was a scientist first. I just think of the Book of Synonyms.
He was a doctor, a mathematician, and a lexicographer. He presented a very famous paper to the Royal Society. It was titled, "Get Ready for This Explanation of an Optical Deception in the Appearance of the Spokes of a Wheel when Seen Through Vertical Apertures."
Very catchy title. Real bestseller material.
Rolls right off the tongue. But the concept he described in that paper is known as the persistence of vision.
And this is the bedrock of all film and animation.
The absolute foundation. Roget codified the biological fact that the human retina holds onto an image for a tiny fraction of a second after the object is actually gone from view.
It's like a visual lag.
It is a lag. It's a biological flaw in our hardware, really.
So if we had perfect, flawless eyes, cinema wouldn't work at all.
Correct. If our eyes refreshed instantly with no lag, we would see a film reel for exactly what it is. A still slide, followed by total darkness as the shutter closes, followed by another still slide.
It would just be a strobing, flickering nightmare.
It would be unwatchable. But because our eye holds on to image A just long enough until image B arrives on the screen, our brain seamlessly blends them together into one continuous motion.
That is the biggest takeaway here for anyone listening. Movies do not move.
No, they don't move at all. It is an illusion created entirely inside your own head. We are just exploiting a glitch in the human operating system.
And once Roget put this glitch into writing and explained the math behind it, it kicked off an absolute toy craze.
The Victorian era loved their philosophical toys.
It really did. And I want to dig into these specific contraptions because I think people often confuse them or lump them all together. Let's start with the simplest one, the thaumatrope.
The thaumatrope is brilliant in its simplicity. It's just a cardboard disc. You draw a bird on one side and an empty bird cage on the other side.
And you attach strings to the sides.
Right. You spin it quickly on the strings. The persistence of vision kicks in, your brain blends the two sides together, and the bird suddenly appears to be sitting inside the cage.
It doesn't move, per se.
No, it doesn't animate a sequence, but it combines two realities into one single image.
Then we step up to the phenakistoscope and the zoetrope. Now, these operate on a slightly different principle, the principle of the shutter.
Right. The zoetrope is probably the one most people listening have actually seen in a museum or a novelty shop. It's a metal or cardboard drum, a cylinder, with vertical slits cut evenly around the sides.
And you put a strip of paper inside.
Yes, you place a long strip of sequential drawings around the inside bottom of the drum, maybe a horse galloping or a man doing a backflip. When you spin the drum, you look through the slits at the drawings on the opposite inside wall.
So why are the slits necessary? Why can't I just look over the top of the spinning drum at the drawings?
If you look over the top while it's spinning, you just see a continuous nauseating blur, a smear of color.
Because your eye can't isolate the individual frame.
Exactly. The slit acts as a physical shutter. As the drum spins, the solid part of the wall blocks your vision completely, and then flash the slit passes your eye and lets you see the drawing for a split second. Then the next solid section blocks your vision again.
It freezes the moving image just long enough for your brain to register it clearly.
Yes. You are seeing image, black, image, black, image, black really fast.
But it has a major flaw, right? Because you are looking through a tiny little slit, you're blocking out about 90% of the ambient light.
Oh yeah, zoetropes are incredibly dim. They're really hard to see clearly unless you have a very bright light shining directly down into the drum.
Which brings us to the massive upgrade. The praxinoscope, invented by a Frenchman named Émile Reynaud in 1877.
Reynaud was a mechanical genius. He realized that the light loss from the slits was the main problem ruining the illusion, so he just got rid of the slits entirely.
How did he separate the frames then?
He placed a multi-sided column of mirrors right in the center axis of the drum. So now you aren't looking through a dark shutter on the edge, you are looking down into the brightly lit center at a reflection.
Kind of like looking into a kaleidoscope.
Very similar idea. The mirrors rotate in tandem with the outer drum. As the drum spins the drawings past, the changing angle of the inner mirror mathematically compensates for the movement of the drawing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it creates a stationary reflection of the drawing that just magically dissolves into the reflection of the next drawing. The result was a bright, clear, luminous, moving image with no flicker.
And Reynaud didn't just use this to show little 2-second loops of horses, right? He actually made movies.
He painted on a transparent strip he called crystalloid. He made strips that were 30 feet long.
30 feet of hand-painted frames.
Yes. So he could tell an actual story. He wasn't just showing a juggler repeating a trick. He was showing a narrative sequence with a beginning, middle, and end. He was practically projecting cartoons decades before actual film existed.
That's incredible. But ironically, Williams points out that the most important Victorian device for the modern animator isn't the complex mirror drum, it's the cheap one.
The flipper book.
The flip book, invented around 1868. It basically conquered the world.
It did. It's so tactile.
I used to draw little stick figures, fighting in the corners of my math textbooks in middle school. I think almost everyone did that at some point.
It's an intuitive way to understand time, but Williams emphasizes this heavily because for the classical animator, and frankly even for many digital animators today, the flipbook mechanic is still their primary daily workflow.
How so? They aren't binding their drawings into little paperback books.
No, but if you watch a traditional animator work at their desk, they have a stack of loose paper on metal peg bars to keep them aligned.
Right.
They hold the bottom edge of the paper between their fingers, and they roll the drawings. They flip the pages from the bottom up, creating that exact same flipbook effect.
But why do it that way? Why not just shoot it on a camera and watch it on a monitor?
Because of the immediacy. When you flip the paper in your own hand, you physically feel the timing. You can control the speed of playback with your thumb.
You're intimately connected to it.
You are. You can see instantly, oh, that arm was too fast on frame 7, or that head turn is a little jittery. You are testing and refining the motion before you ever commit it to the camera. It connects the artist's physical hand directly to the element of time.
So the thumb is basically the timeline controller.
The thumb is the editor. It allows the animator to simulate the actual screen time without needing any complex technology involved.
Speaking of technology, this is where the historical timeline crashes into the 20th century. We finally get the motion picture camera. We have flexible film stock. And we have a meeting of absolute titans, Aleister Blackton and Thomas Edison.
1896. This is a crucial meeting. Blackton was a newspaper cartoonist, and he was fast. He did these lightning sketches on the vaudeville stage circuit where he'd draw face in 10 seconds.
Or a real film.
A huge showman. He interviews Thomas Edison for a paper, and Edison, who is ever the opportunist, sees this guy drawing at lightning speed and thinks, I should film that. That's a great novelty act for my kinetoscopes.
And that collaboration eventually leads to a film called Humorous Phases of Funny Faces in 1906.
Which is widely cited as the first true animated cartoon on film.
What actually happens in it?
Again, it's very vaudeville. It's a chalk drawing of a man puffing a cigar and blowing smoke rings. It's a woman rolling her eyes. It's a dog jumping through a hoop.
Just a series of disconnected gags.
It's a gimmick to show off the technology.
It's really interesting to compare that American style, which was very showbiz, very gag-focused, with what was happening over in France at the exact same time with Emile Cole.
Cole is the philosophical counterweight to Blackton. His film Phantasmagory comes out in 1908, and it is wildly different.
Visually, it's very distinct.
It is. It's drawn as white lines on a black background, so it looks like a magical chalkboard come to life. But the internal logic of the film is pure dream logic.
The source material mentions his lamppost having moods.
Yes. In Blackton's work, a dog acts like a dog. But in Cole's work, a house might suddenly squish down and turn into a face, and then that face stretches out and turns into a flower.
Total surrealism.
It was pure stream of consciousness. And Cole's experimental work gave us a dictum that Williams says is absolutely crucial for any animator to remember.
Don't do what a camera can do what a camera can't do.
Exactly. I feel like that rule gets forgotten a lot today.
It really does. With hyper-realistic CGI, sometimes you wonder why they didn't just shoot it live action.
Right. If you can easily film a real dog jumping through a hoop, why spend weeks drawing it? Animation should be reserved for the impossible. If you want strict reality, buy a camera. If you want a house to grow teeth and eat a policeman, hire an animator.
So by 1908, we have the tinkerers and the experimenters figuring out the mechanics. But now, the medium needs the artist, with a capital A. The man who takes this vaudeville novelty and turns it into a legitimate industry, Winsor McCay.
The Titan. It is genuinely impossible to overstate Winsor McCay's importance to the history of animation. He was already a massive celebrity because he created the comic strip Little Nemo in Slumberland,
Which is a visual masterpiece on its own.
It is a masterclass in perspective, architecture, and imagination. But McCay wasn't satisfied with static panels. He wanted to make Nemo actually move.
And he did it the absolute hardest way possible.
Well, the physical labor is staggering to think about. You have to remember, there were no cells yet.
Cells being the clear plastic sheets.
Right. Later on, animators could paint a background once and just lay clear plastic sheets with the moving characters over top of it. McCay didn't have that. He drew every single frame on a piece of translucent rice paper, which meant he had to redraw the background environment in every single frame.
Wait. So if Little Nemo is just walking down a city street for 5 seconds, McCay has to redraw the exact same buildings and windows behind him over 100 times.
Yes, exactly. He actually had to invent a system of registration marks, little crosses in the corners of the paper, just to keep the background aligned from page to page so it didn't look like it was vibrating wildly.
This sounds agonizing.
He made 4,000 completely fully rendered drawings for his first Little Nemo film. 4,000. Just try to imagine the physical labor, the hand cramps, the sheer mental fortitude to sit at a desk and draw the same window ledge 4,000 times just to make a boy walk past it.
And he did this basically alone.
He had a little bit of help tracing, but essentially, yes. He viewed it as fine art, not a factory job. And this insane dedication culminated a few years later in Gertie the Dinosaur in 1914. This is the moment animation truly grew up.
Describe the presentation of Gertie, because he didn't just send the film to a theater. It was a performance?
It was a mixed media live event. McCay toured the vaudeville circuit with it. He would physically stand on the stage in a full tuxedo, holding a whip, acting like a circus ringmaster.
Okay.
The film projector would play Gertie, a giant brontosaurus, on the screen right behind him, and McCay would talk to her live.
Like, go on out, Gertie.
Exactly. And on cue, the animated Gertie would shyly poke her head out from behind a cave on the screen. But the absolute kicker, the trick that blew people's minds, was the apple.
What was the trick?
McCay would hold up a physical prop on stage, a real apple or a cardboard pumpkin. He'd look at the screen and say, "Gertie, catch." He would pretend to toss the physical object at the screen. And at that exact fraction of a second, he'd palm the prop, and the animated Gertie on screen would catch a fully animated apple in her mouth.
That is breaking the fourth wall in the most literal way possible for 1914.
The audiences went absolutely berserk. But Williams points out that the real breakthrough wasn't the magic trick, it was Gertie's personality.
She wasn't just a mindless monster.
No, she was playful, she was stubborn. Sometimes McCay would call her and she would refuse to come out. She actually cried big animated tears when McCay scolded her with his whip.
That's the level 3 hierarchy we talked about earlier, drawings that think.
It was the very first time an audience felt true empathy for a bunch of lines on a screen. They forgot they were watching a technical drawing trick and they started emotionally bonding with the dinosaur. That is the birth of true character animation.
McCay proved animation could be funny and charming and full of personality. But then, a few years later, he proved it could be incredibly tragic. The sinking of the Lusitania.
1918. This was a massive shift. This was a documentary, a serious propaganda piece. The Lusitania had been torpedoed by a submarine, and obviously there was no film footage of the actual event. So McCay took it upon himself to reconstruct it.
And the scope of this is insane. 25,000 drawings, 2 full years of work.
And the tone was somber. It was dark. It showed people drowning in the water. It showed this massive, heavy ship tilting and realistically sliding under the waves. It proved once and for all that animation could handle serious, dramatic, historical subjects. It was a masterpiece of realism and weight.
But the story of Winsor McCay, the pioneer of all this, ends on a pretty sour note. And I think this is really important for understanding the tension in the animation industry today.
It is a heartbreaking story. Years later, when McCay was an old man, a group of younger animators the new studio generation, threw a big dinner in his honor. They wanted to celebrate the founder of their industry.
And McKay stands up to give a speech. What does he tell them?
He stands up, looks at these young guys making a living off his invention, and he essentially tells them off. He said, "I developed an art form, you have cheapened it, and turned it into a crude money-making business done by hack artists."
Brutal. Imagine being at that table.
Dead silence in the room. But you have to look at it from his perspective. He wasn't entirely wrong. McKay was a pure artist. He personally funded his own films. He didn't care about efficiency or deadlines.
He'd draw 25,000 frames if he had to.
Right. But the industry that rose up right behind him, the studios in New York and LA, they were factories. They needed to churn out content every single week to make a profit. They couldn't afford to pay a guy to redraw a background 4,000 times. So they developed shortcuts. They developed repeatable formulas.
That tension, art versus commerce, is the eternal struggle of animation even now.
It is the defining conflict of the medium. And the winner of the commerce side, initially, was a cat, Felix the cat.
The very first animated superstar.
Sullivan and Messmer created a character in the 1920s whose popularity genuinely rivaled Charlie Chaplin. Felix was everywhere. He was on clocks, dolls, watches, comic strips.
What made him so successful compared to what came before?
He was a brilliant visual problem solver. He operated purely on cartoon logic. He would get into a jam, take his own tail off, and use it as a question mark to show he was confused, or straighten it out and use it as a ladder to escape.
Doing what a camera can't do.
Exactly. But Felix was a silent era star, and silence was about to go extinct. Enter the mouse.
1928, Steamboat Willie.
Walt Disney.
Now, just to clarify for everyone listening, Disney did not invent sound in movies, right? The Jazz Singer was already out.
Right, sound was already happening. But Disney was the first to successfully synchronize sound perfectly with the action in a cartoon. The impact of that synchronization was visceral.
How did audiences react?
Ward Kimball, who became one of the famous 9 old men of Disney animation, described being in the theater. He said people were laughing so incredibly hard they were physically crying just because this drawn mouse pulled a drawn cow's tail and the theater speakers went M.O.?
It seems so incredibly simple and basic to us now, but seeing a drawing make a corresponding noise must have seemed like literal witchcraft.
It broke their brains. It was a sensory overload. And Disney, being a visionary producer, capitalized on it instantly. He launched the Silly Symphony series. The skeleton dance is the prime example of this era.
Right, the spooky skeletons in the graveyard.
Ube Iwerks, Disney's chief animator, animated these skeletons dancing strictly to a musical beat. It wasn't just random noise anymore, it was rhythm. The drawings were playing the music.
And Disney pushed for color.
Flowers and Trees, 1932, the very first Technicolor cartoon. Again, huge leap forward.
Then he pushed for something deeper. Personality. This is a big one. 3 Little Pigs in 1933. Why does Richard Williams cite this specific short as such a massive turning point?
Because the 3 pigs looked almost exactly alike. If you took a still frame from the film, they were just 3 identical round little pigs with different hats. But when you watched them move, they were completely different people. The practical pig, who builds the brick house, moved with purpose and solidity. His movements were grounded. The Pfeiffer pig, the lazy one, was flighty and loose and bouncy. You could tell their entire internal psychology apart purely by their acting.
That goes right back to Williams's hierarchy. They were thinking differently from one another.
Exactly. The audience actively rooted for the practical pig because they respected his character, which was conveyed entirely through how his mass was moved across the screen.
And all of this innovation, synchronizing sound, integrating color, developing distinct personality, it was all essentially a long rehearsal for the main event, what the industry called Disney's folly. Snow White.
1937. It is really hard to convey to a modern audience just how massive of a gamble this was.
Everyone thought he was crazy.
The entire industry consensus in Hollywood was that an audience would get a literal migraine watching bright, flashing cartoon colors for 80 minutes straight. They thought adults would never sit still for it, and they certainly thought no one would ever cry over a drawing of a princess.
Disney basically bet his entire studio on it.
He bet the house. And the artists themselves paid a brutal price. We talked about Winsor McCay doing 4,000 drawings by himself. Snow White required hundreds of thousands of drawings. The animators worked day and night, sweating over light boxes.
The physical toll was huge.
Williams notes that many of the lead artists actually checked themselves into hospitals or sanitariums to recover after the film wrapped. They were physically, visually, and mentally broken by the effort.
But they succeeded. They proved to the world that a cartoon could be a legitimate feature film.
They raised it from a vaudeville novelty to the level of high art, and the massive financial success of Snow White ushered in the true golden age of animation. Pinocchio, Fantasia, Bambi.
This is when the textbook was written.
Literally. This is when the famous 12 principles of animation were codified by the Disney studio. Concepts like squash and stretch, anticipation, staging. They mathematically figured out how to mimic the physics of real life using pencil and paper.
But as history shows us, the golden age couldn't last forever, and the fall from grace was incredibly steep.
It wasn't just a slow decline, it was a devastating crash for the art form. And the culprit was the small screen in everyone's living room, television.
Post-World War II, TV just explodes across America.
And TV has a voracious, bottomless appetite. It needs new content 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You cannot spend 4 years and millions of dollars making a flawless masterpiece like Pinocchio to fill a Tuesday afternoon slot on local TV.
You need it done by Thursday.
Exactly. You need it fast, and you need it incredibly cheap.
So the studios have to cut corners to survive.
They cut every corner, they slash the frame rate. Instead of redrawing the entire character for every movement, they just hold a static drawing of the body and only animate the mouth flapping up and down.
Yogi Bear tie.
Yes, you put a collar and tie on Yogi Bear so you can separate the moving head from the static body and save thousands of drawings. You reuse walk cycles constantly. This is the era of Hanna-Barbera and the UPA studio.
Right. Now, to be fair to UPA, the source material mentions they did some really beautiful graphic design work.
Oh, absolutely. Shorts like Gerald McBoing Boing are incredibly stylish. They have a great mid-century modern aesthetic. But the actual animation itself, the movement, was what they called limited animation. It wasn't full fluid life. It was a stylistic choice born out of strict economic necessity.
And Williams argues in the book that this shift to cheap TV animation led to a massive tragedy for the medium, a literal loss of knowledge.
This is the critical turning point of the whole chapter. The master animators who invented the rules in the 30s either retired, moved into management, or passed away.
The golden age guys.
Right. And the new generation of artists coming up in the 60s and 70s to draw TV shows were only trained in those fast, cheap, limited methods.
Because that's all the jobs required.
Exactly. They simply didn't know how to do full classical animation. They didn't know the structural anatomical secrets of conveying true weight and physical balance.
It's like a whole generation just forgot how to build the pyramids.
That is the perfect analogy. The scaffolding was removed. For roughly 30 years, that profound wisdom was just locked away in the minds of a few old men, mostly ignored by industry as being old hat or too expensive to bother with.
But then eventually we get a renaissance. And weirdly enough, the savior of these classical hand-drawn rules came from a machine.
It's the greatest irony in animation history. Computer animation, Pixar, DreamWorks, the CGI boom.
Which seems totally counterintuitive, right?
Yeah.
You would think that computers doing all the in-between frames would completely kill the need for traditional hand-drawn skills.
You would think so. But Williams makes a brilliant clarifying analogy here. He says if classical 2D animation is an extension of drawing, computer 3D animation is an extension of puppetry.
Okay, unpack that. Puppetry.
Well, in a 3D program like Maya, the character model is already built by someone else. It exists in virtual space. You, as the animator, don't have to draw its size or worry about keeping its volume consistent.
The computer handles the geometry.
Right, your job is to move it. You have to grab the virtual wrist controller and pull the arm up. You are posing a high-tech marionette. But how do you make that movement look real and appealing?
You still need the principles.
You absolutely need them. You need to show the weight of the arm. You need anticipation before the character jumps. You need overlapping action on their hair when they land.
The physics of the performance.
Yes. The early computer animators quickly realized that even though they weren't holding graphite pencils, they were trying to solve the exact same fundamental problems that Winsor McCay and the Disney masters faced.
How do you make a virtual puppet think?
Exactly. So what did they do? They went right back to the books. They sought out those surviving old men. They dug up the old knowledge.
They resurrected it.
They did. And that is exactly why Richard Williams' book exists and why it's so vital. He saw that the medium was rapidly changing from paper to pixels, but he understood that the underlying art, the manipulation of time, is totally universal. Whether you are moving pixels on a screen, or ink on a cell, or painting on an ancient Greek pot, the rules of capturing a performance remain exactly the same.
It really brings us full circle. We started this hour with a caveman deep underground trying to make a painted boar run in the torchlight. We moved to huge stone columns in Egypt, then to glass slides, then to cardboard flipbooks, then to reels of film, and now we're manipulating billions of polygons on a server farm. But the core mission hasn't changed one bit in 35,000 years.
No, it hasn't. The mission is always the illusion of life.
I want to close this out with a quote that Williams includes near the end of the chapter from Emery Hawkins, who was one of those legendary, eccentric, classical animators.
The great quote.
Hawkins said, "The only limitation in animation is the person doing it. Otherwise, there is no limit to what you can do. And why shouldn't you do it?"
It's the ultimate creative challenge. It's a blank timeline.
It really is. And for you listening, I want to leave you with a provocative thought to chew on after this. We have spent this entire deep dive talking about drawing in time, of manipulating the fourth dimension to create life.
Right.
We've moved from 2D drawings flat on a screen to 3D models moving in virtual space. But we are right on the cusp of something entirely new now with VR and AR environments.
Spatial computing?
Exactly.
Yeah.
If the audience can actually step inside the drawing, walk around the character, and experience the timeline from within the environment, are we still just drawing in time? Or is the animator now creating a fifth dimension entirely?
That is the next frontier. Somebody is going to have to write a whole new survival kit for that.
They definitely are. If you figure it out, let us know. Thanks for diving deep with us today. Catch you next time.